It was supposed to be just another inspection, but the second he stepped onto that lot, Elias Monroe knew something was off. The wind in Sierra Bend, New Mexico, cut like glass, sharp, dry, relentless. Dust hissed across the pavement, swirling around rows of gleaming trucks like restless spirits. The morning sun hadn't yet reached its peak, but heat was already rising from the concrete, bending the air into a shimmering haze. Elias stepped out of his black F-250, the door creaking shut behind him. No entourage, no clipboard, just a plain navy hoodie, weathered jeans, and boots coated in dry clay. He could have been a welder, a roofer, just another working man sizing up his next ride. That illusion was intentional, because Elias Monroe, 41 years old, founder and CEO of North Ridge Auto House, one of the fastest-growing luxury dealerships in the Southwest, wasn't here to shake hands or tour the sales floor. He was here to listen to the silence, the kind of silence that comes when the wrong people walk in wearing the wrong clothes and get treated like they don't belong. 3 complaints in 6 weeks, all quiet, all from Black and Latino customers. Words like dismissive, cold, looked right through me. His assistant, Marlena, flagged them gently. But Elias? He'd felt those looks before. He didn't need a focus group to tell him when a culture had curdled. So he came in undercover, alone, anonymous. And as he crossed the lot toward the showroom, past a lineup of half-dusted trucks and locked glass doors, no one looked up. No one nodded. No one asked his name. But from the second the heavy door clicked shut behind him and the cool blast of AC met the sweat on his neck, Elias knew. He wasn't just stepping into a building, he was stepping into a test, and the people inside had already failed it. This was his house, but they had no idea the owner had just walked in through the front door. The moment Elias crossed the threshold, the mood shifted. Inside North Ridge Auto House, the chill wasn't just from the air conditioning. It was the kind of sterile cold that sinks into your skin. The kind that says, "You're not one of us." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a blue-white glare across the showroom's polished tile. It was pristine. Too pristine. Like a luxury boutique afraid to admit it still dealt in people. Elias walked slow, methodical, his boots echoing on the tile like the tick of a countdown. He passed a row of new models, GMC Denali's, Chevrolet Silverados, lined up like museum pieces, untouched and unloved. Not a single employee glanced up. Not the receptionist, buried behind her screen. Not the 2 sales reps whispering near the cappuccino bar. Then a voice broke the hush, dry, flat, like it had said the same line 100 times today and meant it 0. "You need something?" Elias turned, a man in his late 30s, thinning hair, slack jaw, eyes that had seen too many commissions and not enough humanity. Clipboard in one hand, disdain in the other. "Looking for a used truck," Elias said evenly. The man shrugged, didn't even ask a name. "Back row, over there." He jerked his thumb without moving his feet. No greeting, no handshake, no offer of help. Elias nodded once, more to himself than to the man, and moved on. He passed through the lot, sun punching down against his hoodie. The asphalt radiated heat, making the trucks shimmer like illusions. He paused at a 2021 Sierra Denali. Gunmetal silver, subtle dent on the tailgate, price tag reading $68,200. The kind of truck you buy when you've earned your calluses. He knelt to inspect the tires. Still good tread. Real-world miles, but not abused. Behind him, the same salesman drifted over, hands shoved in his khakis. "She's got some wear," he muttered, "but she runs." "How many miles?" 80-something. I'll check. Think we got the record? Somewhere." No offer to pull it up, no spark of interest, just static. Elias stood, brushing grit from his knee, scanning the lot like a general surveying a battlefield. And that's when he saw them. A couple, early 30s, white, stepping out of a BMW X7. Instantly, a younger salesman, sharp suit, gelled hair, teeth too white, was jogging toward them. Wide smile, outstretched hand, already offering bottled water before they even spoke. Elias didn't move, didn't blink. He just watched. Back by the Denali, the first salesman grunted and drifted away. No apology, no information. Elias pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. Sales rep unengaged. No VIN info, no specs, no smile. But this wasn't about bad salesmanship. It was about patterns. Patterns that looked too much like the kind he'd fought to escape. From the corner of his eye, Elias spotted someone else. A young black man in delivery overalls, standing just inside the showroom door, folder in hand, clearly waiting, clearly invisible. No one looked at him, no one spoke, and just like that, Elias felt it. Not just the heat, not just the silence, but the same old weight. The one that said, "You can build the house, but they'll still treat you like you don't belong in it." Elias slipped back into the showroom like a shadow, the sunlit parking lot fading behind glass doors that barely whispered shut. The temperature dropped again. So did the energy. A forced stillness hovered in the air, too quiet for a place meant to buzz with life, with movement, with care. He didn't rush. He walked slow, soaking it in, letting the silence speak louder than any welcome ever could. Over by the reception desk, the young man in the delivery uniform still stood waiting. Same position, same hopeful glance, same folder clutched in his hand like a lifeline. No one had moved. No one had even acknowledged him. Elias watched as the receptionist looked up, met the man's eyes for half a second, then dropped her gaze back to her keyboard without a word. It wasn't ignorance, it was choice. And that's when the second clue hit. Inside the sales office, a glassed-in cube at the far end of the showroom, 4 staff members huddled around a monitor. Laughter flickered from inside. Someone was mimicking a customer's voice, cartoonish and high-pitched. Bro sounded like he never set foot in a dealership before. One of them chuckled, "I swear, Ryder, you're gonna get us cancelled one day." Then the kicker. Man shows up in a hoodie, you already know it's a waste of time. Window shoppers don't buy trucks. The other voices laughed harder. One guy slapped the back of the chair like it was the punchline of a late-night special. The receptionist gave a small, nervous smirk, but still said nothing. Elias stood frozen, not because he was shocked, he wasn't, but because it had gotten this bad without anyone blowing the whistle. He felt something cold settle in his chest. Not anger, not even disappointment. It was clarity. He turned and walked toward the break room, taking the long way around. Every step felt heavier. Every face he passed looked through him like he was background furniture. He stepped inside the dim kitchen and stood by the vending machine. On the corkboard, among expired birthday announcements and faded service award photos, a torn corner of a printed Yelp review caught his eye, thumbtacked in place as if someone wanted to forget it existed but couldn't throw it away. If you don't look like their idea of a customer, they'll treat you like a mistake. No name, no timestamp, just a truth too loud to ignore. Elias closed his eyes for a breath. He remembered his first dealership job. Age 20, detail crew, no AC, no respect. He remembered being told to wait in the break room whenever corporate came to visit. Not because he was dirty, but because he was off-brand. That memory never left him. And now, that same poison had seeped into his own house. Back in the showroom, the young delivery man gave up. Elias watched as he turned slowly, still holding the folder, and walked out the door. No one stopped him. No one even noticed. Except Elias. He followed with his eyes, jaw tight, heart hammering with restrained fury. Then he turned toward the Denali, now basking in the window light like it was waiting to be part of something bigger. He didn't need more evidence, but the truth was piling up like bricks. Elias Monroe had walked in, hoping to disprove the complaints. Instead, he'd found something worse. Not a broken system, but a system so numb it couldn't even feel the cracks anymore. The pen hovered just inches above the contract. Elias sat at a cluttered sales desk in the corner of the showroom. The same disinterested salesman slouched across from him, drumming a chewed pen cap against the monitor. The Denali's price was typed in bold at the top of the screen, $68,200, with a string of unnecessary add-ons beneath it. Tire protection, nitrogen inflation, premium warranty. Garbage. Elias had politely declined them all. "Sign here," the salesman muttered, spinning the screen around without even looking Elias in the eye. The air in the room had a weight to it now. the hum of printers, the distant buzz of conversation, the low clack of heels on tile. All of it pulsed in Elias's ears as he stared at the contract. He didn't blink, he didn't move, and just as he reached for the pen, fingers brushing cold plastic, a voice cut through the room, clear, measured, but lined with frustration. "Why is he getting helped while I've been sitting here for 30 minutes? The voice came from behind him, not raised, not angry, but undeniable. Elias turned slowly. The man standing just outside the finance office was tall, mid to late 30s, skin the color of fresh soil, sunburnt around the neck. His jeans were stained with paint, his steel-toe boots scuffed. A construction foreman, maybe. Hard work written across his frame. His name tag read Marco Estrada. Elias's heart beat once, hard. He'd seen Marco walk in earlier, had watched him take a seat, glance at the receptionist twice and wait. And wait. And wait. No water, no greeting, no offer of help. But now? Now he wasn't invisible anymore. The salesman at Elias's desk looked up like he'd been slapped. Someone will be with you shortly, sir," he said, voice cracking with forced politeness. Marco didn't budge. He looked straight at Elias. "Is there a reason I wasn't worth your time?" Elias stood. Every eye in the showroom turned. The break room went quiet. Even the printer seemed to stop mid-page. He looked at Marco. "You were more than worth it," he said softly. "You still are." Then Elias turned to the salesman across the desk, calm, controlled, but with thunder behind his gaze. "You want to know who I am?" he said, lifting the pen, not to sign but to scratch a thick, deliberate line across the contract. "I'm Elias Monroe. I own this dealership." The silence cracked open like a dropped plate. The salesman blinked. "What? What?" "You heard me." The receptionist stood halfway up, frozen. The younger salesman, Ryder, peeked around the corner and immediately ducked back out of sight. Elias stepped forward, placing both hands flat on the desk like he was about to flip it. "You had a customer in front of you. You had another at the door, and all you could show was indifference." He turned to face the room. "I walked in here in a hoodie and boots. You didn't ask my name. You didn't ask what I do. You assumed. Just like you've been doing for weeks, maybe months." He let that sink in, watching the realization drain the color from faces. "I built this business to be different. I built it to serve everyone." Then he pointed to the salesman. "And you? You're done. You can't be serious," the man stammered. "I've never been more serious," Elias said. "You didn't lose a sale today. You lost a legacy." As the man stood dumbfounded, Elias turned to Marco. "Thank you for speaking up. Most people wouldn't." Marco nodded, eyes sharp but steady. "Most people don't get heard." Elias offered his hand. "Let's change that. Right now." The words "you're done" still lingered in the air when the salesman finally backed away from the desk, his mouth half open, trying to piece together a defense that wouldn't come. Around them, the showroom remained suspended, an audience held hostage by disbelief. No one moved, no one interrupted. Elias didn't flinch. The dismissed salesman muttered under his breath, "You're overreacting." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Say that louder." The man stepped forward, defensive now. "I said, it's not that deep. So I didn't roll out the red carpet for you. Big deal. You're a CEO. You should know better than to take things so personally." Elias's posture didn't change, but his voice dropped an octave. Cool, slow, steady. "I didn't fire you because you didn't smile. I fired you because you couldn't treat another human being with basic respect. That's not personal, that's fundamental." Someone near the receptionist's desk swallowed audibly. The finance manager, a graying man in a too-tight suit, slowly emerged from the back office. His eyes scanned the scene, hesitant, uncertain. "You think this is about me?" Elias said, sweeping his gaze across the room. "It's not. This is about every customer you sized up before they even spoke. It's about the guy who just walked out, ignored. It's about Marco here, who had to raise his voice just to be seen." He turned to the finance manager. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years, sir." "And in those 3 years, how many times have you seen something like this happen?" The man looked down. I don't know. Yes, you do, Elias snapped. You just don't want to say it. A murmur rippled through the room. Elias pointed toward the corner office, where Ryder, the flashy salesman who had greeted the white couple earlier, was now peeking from behind a window. He knew what to say. He knew who to smile at. He chose who deserved effort. He greeted them like royalty, while I got a grunt and a gesture to the back row. He shook his head, not with rage, but with deep, visible disappointment. I've worked too hard. My parents worked too hard. I didn't grow up with wealth. My mother cleaned motels. My father laid brick until his back gave out. And they taught me to treat every person with dignity, because you never know who's walking through your door. Then Elias stepped closer to the fired salesman, his tone sharpened with steel. You didn't fail at sales, you failed at decency. The man tried again, desperate now. But I've been here for 8 years. I've hit every quota. And yet you never once hit character. With that, Elias turned his back, not in disrespect, but in finality. The conversation was over. He faced the rest of the staff. Some of you are thinking this is about one bad apple. Let me be clear, it's not. It's about rot, and rot spreads when no one speaks up. There was a beat of silence, then a quiet voice broke it. Mr. Monroe. Elias turned. It was Jasmine, a soft-spoken admin in the back office, barely in her 20s. She stepped forward, nervous but firm. I've seen this too. I just didn't think anyone would care. Elias's expression softened. I care, and starting today we're going to fix this. He turned to the room again. This place is getting a reckoning, not a PR stunt, a reset. Starting with who we hire, how we train, and how we lead. And then he added, loud enough for everyone to hear, if serving people with respect is too much to ask, this is the wrong building for you. Jasmine's words hung in the air like a match held over dry kindling, small, quiet, but enough to set the whole room ablaze. I've seen this too, she had said. And now, you could hear the breath of the building shift. Elias turned to her fully, the rigid edge in his shoulders softening. Jasmine wasn't loud, she wasn't polished, but her voice, trembling yet determined, hit harder than any speech could have. She stepped out from behind the service counter, her back straight despite the weight in her voice. I tried to bring it up once, quietly, to a manager, she said. I was told to stay in my lane. Mind your pay grade, they said, so I stopped talking. She looked down at her hands, then up at the rest of the room. And I thought maybe someone higher up would notice. But we all just kept waiting for someone else to say something. The silence that followed was thick, unbearable. Elias nodded slowly. Well, someone's saying it now. He turned back toward the floor, toward the dozens of employees who had peeked out from behind cubicles and glass offices, now standing in full view, some with shame in their eyes, some with uncertainty, a few with something new. Resolve. This isn't just about who we fired today, Elias said. It's about the silence we allowed, the moments we watched happen and let slide. He walked toward the receptionist, who still hadn't spoken since the confrontation. Her fingers were clenched around the edge of her desk. You knew something was off, Elias said gently. She didn't meet his eyes at first, then a whisper. Yeah. Why didn't you speak up? Her voice cracked. I didn't want to lose my job. Elias nodded again. I get that, I do, but silence lets this stuff grow. It turns habits into culture. And one day, we wake up realizing the place we work in isn't the place we thought we were building. He looked across the room, voice rising, not angry, but resolute. Accountability isn't about pointing fingers, it's about fixing what's broken, together. Then he reached down, picked up the business card the salesman had dropped earlier, and held it up. This card doesn't mean I know everything, it just means I have power. And power doesn't mean a damn thing if I'm not using it to make things better. He turned back toward Jasmine. You've seen what needs fixing, he said, and you had the courage to speak. That makes you valuable. Her eyes widened. Me? I want someone on the inside who isn't afraid to say something when things go wrong. Can you do that? Her voice trembled, but it was sure. Yes, I can. A long breath seemed to move through the room, as if everyone was exhaling something they hadn't realized they'd been holding. Elias turned back to the rest of the staff. There will be a meeting tomorrow, mandatory. We're rewriting everything, not just the policies, but the mindset. How we greet people, how we answer questions, how we treat the quiet ones, the tired ones, the ones we assume can't afford a down payment. He paused, gaze sweeping the room one last time. If you think your job is to sell vehicles, you're wrong. Your job is to serve people. The trucks are the product. Trust is the sale. No one dared interrupt. No one wanted to. And in that stillness, something shifted, not just in the room, but in the foundation of the place itself. By the time Elias stepped outside again, the sun had climbed higher, turning the lot into a glimmering sheet of heat. The metal of the trucks shimmered. The wind had softened, but the silence inside him had not. He didn't walk to his Denali, not yet. Instead, he moved past it, purposeful, focused, heading straight for the edge of the dealership lot, where the sidewalk met the road. His eyes scanned the distance, heart pulling him toward one last thread, left dangling. And then, under the faded shade of a cracked bus shelter, he saw him. The young black man from earlier, the one with the folder, the one no one spoke to, still sitting there, headphones in, slouched against the plexiglass like he didn't belong anywhere. Elias crossed the street without hesitation. "Hey," he called gently. The young man looked up, startled. One earbud popped out. His eyes were guarded, wary. He didn't recognize Elias, not fully. "I saw you earlier," Elias continued, "in the showroom." The man nodded once, cautious. "I just wanted to say, I saw what happened, or what didn't." The man looked down at the folder in his lap. "It's fine, I'm used to it." Elias felt that sentence like a punch to the chest. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ezekiel." Elias extended a hand. "I'm Elias. I own that dealership." Ezekiel blinked. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." A pause. "Look," Elias said, stepping closer, voice quieter now. "I came in today dressed like this for a reason. I needed to see how people were being treated when nobody knew who they were. What I saw, I'm not okay with it, but I'm fixing it." Ezekiel raised an eyebrow. "Why tell me?" "Because you mattered long before I fired anyone. You shouldn't have had to leave unseen." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek business card. Flipped it over. "Come back in," Elias said, "not as a customer. As my guest, I want you to sit with someone I trust. Her name's Jasmine, and we'll find you something that fits your needs and your budget. More importantly, we'll treat you like a human being." Ezekiel hesitated. "You don't have to do that." "I know," Elias said, "but I want to." There was a long pause. Then Ezekiel stood slowly and offered a small, real nod. "Okay," he said. "Yeah. Let's go." They walked back together, side by side. This time, when they entered the showroom, heads turned, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. People stood straighter, some looked ashamed, but no one looked away. Jasmine was already at the front. She didn't wait for instructions. She greeted Ezekiel with the warmth that had been missing just hours earlier, offered him water, took his folder, invited him to sit. Elias didn't hover. He stood back, arms folded, watching the change begin, not on paper, but in posture, in eye contact, in tone. This, he thought, is why I built this place. Not just to move vehicles, but to build something better. He stepped outside one final time. The sky above Sierra Bend was blinding, but he welcomed it. He climbed into his old F-250, not the shiny Denali he'd been poised to buy, and let the engine hum beneath him like a quiet heartbeat. No dramatic exit, no applause, just the wind, the road, and a man choosing integrity over ease. True leadership isn't about position, it's about presence. Elias didn't set out to create a viral moment. He came to find the truth, and he found more than he bargained for. But instead of walking away in anger, he walked toward change. Because the real power of a CEO isn't measured in deals closed or trucks sold. It's measured in how many people he lifts up when no one's watching. Respect isn't a perk, it's a right. And the moment we forget that, we lose more than customers. We lose our humanity. Anyone can wear a suit. Anyone can sign checks, shake hands, pose for press photos. But real leadership, it shows up in the quiet moments, when no one's looking, when there's nothing to gain and everything to lose. Elias Monroe could have stayed in his office that day, surrounded by accolades and spreadsheets, far removed from the uncomfortable truth beneath his business's polished surface. Instead, he chose to walk the same path his customers walked. He chose to see through their eyes, to feel what they felt, to confront the kind of indifference that hides behind forced smiles and corporate slogans. And when the moment came to speak, he didn't speak for himself. He spoke for the people passed over, the ones who never got a welcome, a handshake, or even a second glance. He stood up for the silent ones, the overlooked, the dismissed. Not with a press release, but with action, immediate, honest, and uncompromising. That's what made him powerful, not the name on the building, not the zeros in his account, but the decision to use what he had to create something better. Because power isn't real unless it lifts others with it. And change doesn't start at the top, it starts in the mirror, with the willingness to say, "Not on my watch." So the next time you walk into a place and feel unseen, remember Elias. And if you ever find yourself in a position to change the way someone is treated, don't wait. Do it, not for the credit, but because someone once chose to do it for you. And that's how legacies are made. If this story moved you, if Elias's quiet strength, his refusal to look the other way, or his commitment to dignity over dollars struck a chord, then you're exactly where you need to be. At X Daily Stories, we bring you more than just narratives. We bring you truth wrapped in emotion, lessons hidden in everyday moments, and the kind of stories that remind us what it means to lead, to listen, and to lift others up. So if you loved this powerful journey through Sierra Bend, where one CEO's undercover mission unraveled a culture of quiet bias and rebuilt it with purpose, then don't just scroll past. Hit that subscribe button for X Daily Stories, your front row seat to cinematic tales that challenge, inspire, and stay with you long after the last line. We're dropping new episodes weekly, stories of justice, humility, redemption, and the bold hearts who fight for what's right. Join our community, turn on notifications, and share this story because someone out there needs it today.